Welcome back to the bar, the socially distant sports bar. The format, for what it's worth, is 2 clips from YouTube each, 1 book each, and one of us picks a documentary every episode. That is always the plan. It doesn't really go that way most of the time, but that's all right. It doesn't particularly matter.
That's fine.
It is, isn't it? How was your week, Mike?
Yeah, my week was really good. Just relaxing, you know. I had a nice easy week of it. Went to the beach yesterday. Went to the park today. Yeah, I've had a nice time. I had a bit of a mishap. I will, full disclosure.
Go on.
I was doing a lot of housework yesterday.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a 21st century man. I do a lot of housework as well.
I've always thought that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm an alpha male, but there's nothing wrong with doing the housework as well. And I like to play around with my kids. I have a bit of fun with the kids. And I jokingly, when I had the Hoover, I'll call it the Hoover, but it's not actually made by Hoover, the vacuum cleaner hose.
Yes.
I like to stick it on the kids, you know, and make them squeal, you know, that sort of thing.
They hate it.
Yeah, they can't stand it. Did it to my son yesterday, and I caught him between the legs. He was wearing shorts, and he yelped like a puppy when he stand on it. I've been told. Because I hadn't realised.
Yes.
He'd had a shower.
Yes.
He was relaxing. He hadn't put underwear on. He was just wearing like a little pair of football shorts but no underpants.
Yes.
And I essentially had sucked one of his testicles into the vacuum cleaner hose. Right. And then he was all right, thank God. But I mean, that would have taken some explaining.
The guilt.
Oh. Yeah, I felt awful. I've done some terrible stuff to him. I mean, you know, I think I'm a good dad, but he's had it tough. I mean, once for a laugh, when he was about 2, I said, "Oh, Ben, what's that over there?" And he wasn't going to smell that flower. And I put a hose pipe. You know those sort of the hoses that look like a flower head and they sprinkle your garden?
Yeah.
I bought one of those, and I thought this was hilarious. So I'm sort of, as he went up there, I turned the tap on. But it came out with such force. I thought I'd taken his eye out, and it was horrific. He was crying. I was crying. Just don't know my lesson.
I like this jackass Dirty Sanchez approach to parenting.
Yeah, but without the consent.
Or the money. There's MTV2 are paying for this. It's just cruelty for the sake of cruelty.
We took him to the beach when he was about 2 and Kel was pregnant with our daughter, right? We went to Ogmore Beach, and Kelly, God bless I love my wife. When it comes to sport, she is very challenged, right?
Yeah. Izzy's the same.
I was just skimming stones down at Ogmore, right?
Okay.
And Ben was standing, just minding his own business, playing with some rocks like kids do, you know, sort of 10 yards. I was watching him. And the next thing, I don't know how Kelly did this, because she was standing next to me. She went to throw a rock into the sea and threw in the back of his head, but he was stood behind us. So, I mean, thankfully, it was like a Welsh summer's day, and he had a full snorkel on, like a big thick coat with a hood up.
Yeah.
But it hit the back of his head, and he just sort of collapsed forwards. He was all right. What a big stone. But I said, how did that happen? I mean, if social services are listening, I'm a very attentive dad, but I'm just saying he's had a tough time.
No wonder he's tough.
We stayed on holiday. We went on holiday to Devon once, and there was a tennis court in the complex. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I haven't played tennis for ages. We borrowed some rackets. I thought, I'll play against Izzy. This would be great. Within the first 90 seconds, I realised that a game was out of the question.
Yeah.
So then it became, all right, we'll just have a rally. That'll be fun.
So a knock-up.
So then it was like, okay, I realised that was going to be slightly difficult. So it was like, okay, what I want to do by the end of this holiday, I want us to have a rally where we hit the ball to each other back and forth 50 times without the ball bouncing more than once and with it going over the net each time properly. So, and then it became, all right, by the end of the holiday...
Most condescending bit of fun ever.
I want it to be 40 times. I just won 30, 20, 25, 20, and then it got to 50. I was like, let's leave tennis. Let's
Did
watch
she
some television.
at any point enjoy that? No.
Well, tennis is the one sport she takes a vague interest in.
Well, that's worrying. And she's that bad.
Absolutely rubbish.
But you've never vacuum cleaned your testicles. So look on the bright side. When the health visitor came, when he was very little, this sounds bad. I was stone cold sober, but I was showing the health visitor my bar that I've built, right? I've got him in the pram.
Because that's what you do with the health visitor.
Just thought I'd show around. I was quite proud of it.
How's the parenting been going so far, Mike? Come and have a look at the pub I've got in the garden.
Have a look at this pub.
Not one, not two, but 3 bottles of absinthe. Any pub in town, you're only allowed to buy 2 shots of this, but in my bar, you can drink it all night. Doesn't bother me.
Oh God! I was taking the pram back into the house, trying to go through the back door, and I hadn't had a drink. But as I sort of trying to lift the front of the pram up, he fell out of the pram forwards.
Oh God!
Face first onto the bloody patio. Yeah, he's had a tough time,
nice kid. Ugly to look at.
Kid.
He got a face like a smacked ass, but I mean, he's a hell of a nice kid. When he's been disfigured, you compensate, I find.
He's got a hell of a sense of humour.
What a cracking personality.
You'd be a great podcaster in a few years.
Like one of those dates. If you're on a blind date back in the day before, like, Plenty of Fish existed. What's she like? Oh, mate, she's so funny. Forget it. No way.
I'm all right.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Not
I'd rather a first-class wank.
It would be stretching the definition of socially distant sports bar, but one of my clips I would love to put.
Don't do that.
That's not acceptable.
I'd love to put a bloke from Swansea who was on Blind Date in about 1990 on as my first clip choice, because he was superb value.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I seem to remember finding it very funny when I was about 10. I'd have to watch it again just to check.
Go careful, mate. I did that with Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley. I raved about that film. I saw it in Canada once when I was stoned.
Yeah.
And then told my friend Jason I'd seen the funniest film ever.
Ever.
Yeah, so I made this film. It's so funny. I literally laugh for 2 hours non-stop. I remember there was one scene where he had 2 fish in his hands. It was like nunchucks. It was hilarious, I thought. So we had to wait. In those days, you had to go to the video shop and order videos. So I think I waited 2 months to get this thing delivered. Right? And every day for 2 months, I can't believe it's nearly a year. They said another week and it'd be here. Wait till you see this, wait till you see this, wait till you see this. So we made a big deal. Saturday, I had a game of rugby. He played rugby, Jason. Didn't go on the piss because we had Beverly Hills Ninja to watch, right? We sat down and watched Beverly Hills Ninja. The shittest film I've ever seen.
So as I said, 2 clips from YouTube each.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
A book. Standard format for a sports podcast.
Yeah.
Hoovering up your child's testicles aside. Right, Elis, you are first up this week. What are you bringing to the table?
Okay, the 1970s was a golden age for the chat show.
And everything else.
But my favourite chat show host is Dick Cavett, who had a show on CBS in America in the 70s. And he's a brilliant host, and he used to get absolutely fantastic guests. And I think these were 2 of the most famous people on the planet at the time. So watch and enjoy.
I want to give Joe credit. Honest, all sincerity, something I never said. I got to admire this man to be where he is today, to have went as long as he did and as good as he did, plus knocking me down, to get his ranking with no style.
How you like that?
No, I mean, no, I mean, seriously, I'm
style.
not talking about Joe. I have
No
to admit,
style.
even as trainer, I mean, you got the boxing style like Joe Frasier. You'll never see Joe Frasier jabbing and faking and backing up, and moving
Oh
aside.
man, you got
He's always
surprise.
coming
You got a
forward.
surprise coming. You got a surprise coming. You wait till the 28.
How you gonna teach
You
old
gonna
dog
see
new
something.
tricks? How you gonna learn some new tricks?
You call him
That's
an
that
old
quick.
dog.
So there we have it. That's Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, who are about to fight each other, and they're lifting up Dick Cavett, who's 5'7", also a Welsh link because his grandfather was from Carmarthen. What I love about it is that programme itself. Johnny Carson had higher ratings, but he used to get brilliant guests, Dick Cavett, in the time when musicians and actors in particular were very, very intellectual, and sports people as well. So we'd have these hour-and-a-half-long conversations with Richard Burton or John Lennon or Muhammad Ali and really get to the bottom of what they thought about, politics and life and all sorts. So it was must-watch television. There's still brilliant interviews 40 years later. But what I love about this clip, there is such subtext to Frasier and Ali because they
yeah.
well, I don't know what Ali thought of Frasier, but Frasier absolutely detested Ali. His autobiography was published in 1996, and he refers to Muhammad Ali as Cassius Clay throughout the book. So absolutely despised him, because Ali, as much as I love him, and as much as I think he's the ultimate icon of 20th century sport, he could be a bully. And he really bullied Frasier, and Joe Frasier just could not keep up.
Like in quite during the Thriller of Manila, in quite a racial way as well.
Yeah, calling him an Uncle Tom and all that kind of stuff.
And a gorilla.
Yeah.
I think the hatred from Frasier towards Ali comes from... There are some stories that Frasier's camp tell that when Ali was not allowed to box because he obviously avoided the draft, he was removed, had his license taken away from him. He kind of fell on hard times then. And Frasier lent him money. And none of that seemed to mean anything then, I think, once Ali kind of came back into the boxing fraternity.
Frasier also helped persuade the authorities to allow Ali to box again. Because he was banned from boxing because he refused the draft and didn't fight in Vietnam.
I've never seen this clip before. He's seething. Frasier, you look at his eyes, and through the whole way through it, he's got this thin veneer of sort of... He's trying to keep respectable. He knows he's on national television. His eyes tell you everything you need to know about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is prior to the second fight. So the first fight, the fight of the century, which Frasier won on a unanimous decision. So there was plenty of animosity anyway, but the way Ali talked about Frasier in the press, and what he did, he black people in general supported Ali because of the stuff he said by calling him an Uncle Tom and all this kind of thing. You know, if you want to play poverty and privilege top trumps, Frasier had a harder upbringing than Ali did. And, you know, Ali grew up in Kentucky in the 40s, so obviously it was difficult. But Frasier, he was he grew up in a very rural area, and he was a farmer's son. I think it was really difficult upbringing for him.
Yeah, sharecropper son.
Yeah, so to have all that stuff and be called an Uncle Tom, and you know, must have been very, very hurtful. I mean, I love Dick Cavett interviews in general. So if you watch stuff like the Beatles anthology, the documentary they made on the Beatles in the mid-90s, the best John Lennon stuff is often Dick Cavett, long Dick Cavett interviews. And a lot of it's online.
What a luxury, but when did that change to just bloody people plugging a film and just it being clips of the film and just basically a paid infomercial?
Yeah.
Which no one wants to see.
Whereas in those days, you'd get Humphrey Bogart on and you'd talk to him about McCarthyism for an hour and a half.
What I love about 70s chat show stuff like that, how good they look. How good does Joe Frazier look?
Yeah.
Those trousers and that jacket, that is a flipping good look, that is. He's a smooth looking dude in that interview. And I like the bit where Dick Cavett looks momentarily terrified when they short arm the two of them.
I read a long article about how Frasier felt about Ali in Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
And apparently he died in 2011, and right by the end of his life, he'd have forgiven Ali, but certainly for 25, 30 years, he just detested the man. And Foreman and Ali became great friends, but Frasier had no time for Ali at all and thought he was a bully and all this kind of stuff. After the third fight, with the one where Ali said, "This is how dying must feel," he was in the dressing room and he was just lying on a cot in his locker room, apparently in Manila, and he summoned Marvis, who was Joe's son, who was 15 at the time and also went on to become a boxer, lost to Mike Tyson, in fact. He called him into the locker room and said, "Tell your dad the things I said I didn't really mean." So then Marvis then went back to his old man and he said, "Oh, you should come to me then. You should say it to my face."
Yeah,
and he never accepted that Ali had apologised to him. And then there was a Hall of Fame thing, and there were all of the still living heavyweight champions of the world were all together. And Ali's Parkinson's was very bad by this stage. And Frasier was trying to get him, and Larry Holmes and Foreman had to stand between Ali and Frasier because Frasier was just desperate to get at him, and Ali was ill and didn't realise what was going on, but the others did, and they were like, if we let him do this, he's gonna beat him up in some restaurant.
When you see those Hall of Fame inductions and they're all there and whatever, I'm also brought to mind when they bring two fighters together for those pre-fight press conferences.
Yeah.
Right? Usually around a weigh-in or there's something going on there. That must be a terrifying place to be, right?
Yeah.
Because you're only... There's a lot of play acting going on and there's a lot of, it's all bums on seats, it's a business. But you're talking about, if that blows up there, that's going to be... And what's security going to do? If Ken Norton starts firing off with Joe Frazier and George Foreman, what's security doing? Apart from shit in their pants.
I was used to watch those and think, how hard are the bouncers? Why aren't they in the ring?
You've both been to fights. I've never, to my great shame, never been to a fight. But the closest I've been, I went to the Kessler Calzaghe weigh-in because I had a day off school. It was bristling. It's like when you walk in a pub that you know is a rough pub.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can have a pint with your mate and you can have a game of pool and it's all good, but you don't really want to make eye contact. You don't really want to piss anybody off. Right? So I remember being in that weigh-in thinking, right, look forward, watch the weigh-in, watch your feet, and then leave, right? And I'd love to go to a fight, but I don't know. When you see it kick off in the crowd, you think, Jesus Christ.
York Hall in Bethnal Green in East London is one of the most legendary boxing venues, certainly in English boxing. But the amateur stuff, prior to lockdown, that used to happen quite regularly. And I was talking to a mate of mine who's a big boxing fan. I haven't been to York Hall. And I said, I'd love to go to York Hall. Have you been? And he went, yeah. I said, what's it like? And he went, it's very real.
Yeah, I bet.
Very real. Because he's a particular kind of boxing fan from the East End. And the East End has been gentrified to a large extent. But there's still, it's still quite a tough area. And if you're going to watch amateur boxing on a Saturday night at York Hall, I think it can be quite a tasty atmosphere down there.
I had a phone call on the way to work about 10 years ago, and my boss said, you've got to get to my stag to interview a boxer. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So I get in the car, and you were telling the story the other day about when Mike Tyson went to Merthyr.
Yeah.
I arrived at this hotel in my stag, and it's Joe Frazier.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So Joe Frazier is sat there signing stuff. Well, this is the thing. So you think of Muhammad Ali and how much money he earned.
Yeah.
And then Joe Frazier is over in my stag going to a speaking event that day.
Oh, you're joking.
Signing a load of memorabilia.
Smoking Joe Frazier in my stag.
Doing a load of interviews. And it kind of got to my turn to do an interview, and he just said, oh, I'm hungry. So we went to the bar, and I said, oh, look, I don't have to do it now. We can do it later on or whatever. He said, oh, come and have lunch. So we sat down and we had lunch.
Shut up.
And
wow.
Yeah. And then halfway through lunch, the guys at Doctor Who were filming in
Why didn't you give
the same
fucking
hotel.
second Quantum Leap abuse now? Why do I get all this shit for?
Because I'm
Going off on lunch with Joe Frazier and fucking Doctor Who.
Well, Nigel Havers was obviously filming with the Doctor Who crew.
Right, what can I think of?
Chariots of Fire.
Nigel Havers sat down and had lunch with me and Smoking Joe Frazier.
Wow.
That's right. I've known you for 5 years, you prick, and I've never heard that story.
At no point did Nigel Havers mention that it was Smoking Joe Frazier. He just went, hello, and sat down and said, do you mind if I join you? Didn't say who he was, didn't mention, just went, nice Stetson.
Sounds like you're the charmer.
Just carried on with life.
What did Joe Frazier eat, out of interest?
He had, what did he had steak and chips.
Of course he's a boxer.
What Havers have? What Havers have?
Havers,
Foie
from
gras.
memory, had a club sandwich from memory.
When I was in a band many, many years ago, we recorded a demo in my stag because the studio was very cheap. And I got stoned. Not in the drug sense, in the biblical sense, in that we had to pay the producer in cash.
Two very different meanings.
We had to pay the producer in cash. He said there's a cash point at the end of the road. We all went down to the cash point to take 20 quid out each, and suddenly a stone pinged at my feet. I was like, what's that? And then it happened again. I turned around, they were just local kids.
Mike's
in a bus
wife
stop.
trying to chuck stones into us.
Throwing stones at us because we weren't local. Nice town, nice place.
We played a game of rugby for Barry Youth up in Gabalfa, which is quite an interesting part of Cardiff, right? and we had a few scuffles in the game with their team. I remember afterwards in the bar watching all their boys were drinking bottles of beer, but putting the empty bottles in their jackets. So I said, this is not going to end well. So we had a mate of ours playing whose dad had a pickup truck, and he came to get us, like 3 of us. Oh, shit you not, it was like a scene from The Professionals. Because we get in the car park, they're all waiting for us. They just start launching bottles at us. Oh. So we fucking dive in the back of this pickup truck. Like the fucking A-team. And they're just launching bricks and bottles at us as we drove off. Brilliant. Top days.
I used to have a mate who drank Newcastle Brown because it's the heaviest weapon in there.
See, I've never used a weapon. The closest I've ever got was we were getting...
never used a weapon.
I've used a weapon as long as you cut my wit as a weapon.
Shit, what a shit weapon that was. You must have got the shit kicked out of you, didn't you? We came out of the Cardiff University Students' Union once, years ago, even though I wasn't in Cardiff Uni. So we'd had a bit of trouble inside, we got kicked out. And the blokes we had trouble with got kicked out as well. I thought, here we go, it's going to kick off now.
Yeah.
And there was more of them, than just me and my mate Jason, only 2 of us. And the only thing around there was the hot dog van, right? So I remember picking up a spatula, right? and just hoping for the best. And I just stood there with the spatula. And I don't know what I would have done with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Give someone a bit of a slap across the face with it. I don't know what you could do.
Flip them.
Lads, have you seen Beverly Hills Ninja? For a big lad, I do always keep stuff for self-defence in the house, which is unusual. If I'm on my own in the house, I will keep a bottle of bleach next to the bed, usually. Just if anyone comes upstairs, I'm going to squirt bleach in their face, and then I'll ask questions later. I hope it's not my wife coming back early.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, love. I'm really sorry.
You said 2 days, babe. Phone an ambulance.
Sorry, Ben.
Ben, you said you were sleeping over, definitely.
Health visitor's going to be round again. It's going to take 4 bottles of absinthe this time.
Is this about the bollock? No.
It's about the domestos.
There was a domestos issue. I kept it there for self-defence, like most people do.
Why didn't you use the spatula, Mike?
I didn't have time to load the crossbow.
A fish slice, a wooden spoon.
Oh my god.
One of those slotted spoons.
Yeah.
Just the little ones for poached eggs. Right, my first clip for this week is kind of inspired by the conversation we were having last week about what Mike was eating. Kind of inspired by an obsession with what athletes will eat or have to eat or decide they can eat as a result of the exercise they're doing. This is 2 guys who've won the world's strongest man, Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall, kind of having a food off conversation.
First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I drink a litre of water just to flush everything out and get the organs going. I'm having 4 eggs, I'm having probably 5 or 6 pieces of bacon, I'm having 4 or 5 pieces like sausages. I do toast, I do beans, I do tomatoes, and I'll wash that down with a litre of cranberry juice. Now for me the cranberry juice is it's a good source of carbohydrates, but it's also a good antioxidant as well. I like to drink a lot of cranberry juice just to help just flush everything out, get the lactic acid out. That's my first breakfast.
So the amount of ribeye that Brian Shaw is eating, and I think Eddie Hall wants to get competitive because I'm not sure he does eat as much as it seemed to be that once Shaw had said he ate that, I have that as well, plus a sweet potato. Not one of the little ones.
Yeah.
And the family-sized cheesecake bit was the bit that perturbed me out of everything there.
I don't think there's a nutritionist on earth who would regard cheesecake as an athlete's food.
Thing is, I love Eddie Hall. I love strongman stuff, right? But I was watching that thinking, this is very different, right? So the American blokes like steak and rice,
yeah, steak,
more rice, some sweet potatoes for the complex carbohydrates. Eddie Hall's like fucking cheesecake, sausage, bacon, eggs, beans. What?
And then pint of water to flush out my system. Come on, Eddie.
2 packs of French fancies, trifle, another pint of water.
Big bottle of cranberry juice.
Like he's got cystitis.
Jammy Dodgers.
2 bottles of cranberry juice, a tin of dog food, jammy Dodgers. 4 donuts, another pint of cranberry juice. What?
Then I hit the gym. After the gym, I need to replenish. So it's Cocoa Pops.
9 pints of bitter, cranberry juice, Cocoa Pops, Twix. What? Beans, peas, carrots, bacon, cranberry juice.
To give my stomach a rest, but to train my jaw muscles, hubba bubba.
Galaxy, Lion Bar. What? Angel Delight, 4 cups full.
I think he's riffing by the end.
He's completely making it up by the end. Of course he fucking is. Yeah. Oh my God. Go on, Ed.
And then what I do, I got a pair of pyjamas with a pocket in, and I got a chicken Kiev in the pocket.
Wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, packet of apple bramblies.
Viscount biscuit. Cheesecake.
Set my alarm, 4 o'clock, ready break with bacon. Orange clubs, mint clubs, chocolate clubs, biscuit club. All the clubs.
Pint of Bisto.
Cranberry juice.
5 a.m, try a shit. That's a nightmare.
Oh my God. Sit on the bog, sipping cranberry juice.
Crying, texting my trainer, there's got to be a better way.
Ambulance, colon x-rays, more Viscounts.
No matter what time of year, Easter eggs. 10, 12, 14 Easter eggs.
Take the toys out.
But I do keep the mug. So then I have all my cranberry juice in a Smarties mug, Toffee Crisp mug. Doesn't bother me. It's all about getting cranberry juice in the system to flush out the toxin.
Oh, fucking British Strongman. I love it. I love it. You just know those tips are handed down by Jeff Capes, isn't it? Yeah. And that's proper. You had proper strongmen in Britain. Never mind this toe in a fucking plane bullshit. Can you tear up a yellow pages with your bare hands?
Yeah.
Can you breed budgerigars and tear up a yellow pages? And then go on Blue Peter with fucking Simon Groom, John Paul Sigmason back in the day.
I used to like him.
I am the Viking. You know, I love all that shit. All those blokes die in their 40s of huge heart attacks, which is
unsurprising.
They got the good decency to pop off early.
My introduction to Eddie Hall, because I used to watch it when he was John Paul Sigmundson. And
imagine being his heart.
Well,
imagine if his heart could speak.
Well, Eddie Hall.
Oh, give us a fucking break, Eddie.
Put down the topic, Eddie.
He was a very good swimmer, and then he got into bodybuilding. And
yes, he was.
Strongman stuff.
Yeah.
But with Eddie Hall, my introduction to him was when our daughter was born, and we were watching a lot of shit telly. We were watching Celebs in Solitary on Channel 5, and it was Shazia Mirza, the comedian, Plan B, Eddie Hall.
Jesus Christ.
Who's the other one? Shazia Mirza. Anthea Turner.
Obviously.
Of course she's on
it. So it was 7 days of complete isolation. So they're all in these little porta cabins with no windows. So you had no idea if it was night or day. So Shazia Mirza, as a luxury, she took in
Presented by John McCarthy.
She took in a notepad and just wrote a sitcom, and at the time of her life.
Yeah.
Anthea Turner just presented. So she found out where all the cameras were, and then would present to the cameras. Oh, I'm just making my bed. I assume it's about 8 in the morning. But then again, my body clock's been completely ruined by the fact there's no natural light. Plan B didn't enjoy it. Eddie Hall became very, very angry. He drew a lot of pictures. He was angry within probably the first 30 minutes.
Just of picnics.
Now, if it's a 7-day challenge, if you're angry at
Turkish
30 minutes
delight.
in, that's gonna.
Yeah, but he's probably having like a bowl of Rice Krispies, a sandwich, and like a pot of noodles.
It's probably like you before a podcast, Al. It's probably starving.
I've got 2 burgers in the fridge, which I've left over from tea.
Because that's where you cook burgers.
Wait, what?
Why have you got them in the fridge?
2 burgers in the fridge?
Yeah, well, we had burgers for our tea, and then my son and daughter, they didn't finish their burgers. So I've kept.
You're going to reheat that, are you?
No, I'll just eat them
cold.
I'll just eat them cold because I'm like Eddie Hall. It's all about refueling for me. That's the thing.
Well done.
I've got to eat every 90 minutes.
Custard on top, yeah.
But
cranberry juice. Imagine Eddie Hall's restaurant. Come to Fat Eddie's. None of that. Starter, whatever you want.
You're looking pretty decent shape, athlete, are you? Yeah, I'm a triathlete, actually. You need one of Eddie Hall's hot dogs. They're the works.
What's in it? Cranberries, chocolate, sausage, bread, bananas, gravy.
Cadbury's buttons.
Do you like hundreds and thousands? I don't mind them.
I like Brian Shaw's supplements. The names of all supplements that
they're great,
strongmen have are always like, Wolf Eater.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
But I have 2 scoops of fuck off.
Do a full weight.
And then before I go to bed, I get 2 litres of eat my shit. What is it? That's just amino acids. They're always called that. Always have
it's vitamin B12.
I got a supplement in there. I've got Grenade.
Of course you have.
Yeah,
Right.
and I've got the second version of Grenade called Grenade Black Ops, which is basically a caffeine tablet. Yeah, straight up.
Why have you got supplements like that then?
Because they're like appetite suppressants and fat burners, aren't they?
Oh,
in the old days, you could get the proper stuff. Well, no, because in the old days you could get the real. You could get like the ephedrine and the cedar-cordifolia and the proper stuff. There was a place in the Clifton Arcade in Swansea I used to go to get my supplements from. You used to get them sent in directly from Amsterdam. Your appetite would disappear.
Big.
You wouldn't sleep for like 4 days.
Big right scene in Swansea. Some of the shape on some of the people walking down Wine Street. Good grief.
I mentioned this. I mentioned it in stand-up. I mean, you go down Wine Street in Swansea on a Saturday night. There's packs of huge lads everywhere. That would be very scary if they weren't from Swansea because they're all really short as well. I say they look like they've like a bodybuilder being bitten by a radioactive hobbit. And they're all proper angry. They're all roid rage. If you're in like Reflex Bar in Swansea on Wine Street,
Yeah.
hey, you fucking look at me, missus, you bet. Look at me, fucking missus, you bet. Look at me, fucking
Yeah,
missus.
yeah.
Yeah, fucking you, yeah. Look at you, yeah. Fucking I'm looking at you, yeah. Fucking look at you, yeah. Fucking you, fuck off, mate, will you? I saw a bloke in there, right? No shit, about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm out with my wife having a nice quiet Saturday night out in Swansea. She's a Swansea girl.
Why did you go to Reflex, you lunatic?
I was going to say, what are you doing in Reflex on a nice night out with the wife?
Better places.
In Swansea, there's not many better places, is there? But he was on the dance floor. There were two lads. One was essentially trying to sort of grope this girl, and she was up for it. But it was more like a sawing action. He looked like he was trying to saw her fanny with his hand.
Oh dear.
Right, proper going for it. And she was enjoying herself. While his mate, the other roid head, had his trousers and pants around his ankles and was doing a sort of hip thrust dance with a fucking dick like a baby's arm, was just flopping onto his belly and then back onto his knee, right? On a crowded dance floor on a Saturday night. And I'm talking to the bouncer and I went, are you going to kick him out for that? He went, what's your problem, Bat? I said, you're not going to kick him out for that. He's like, for what? He's not causing trouble, is he? I said, he's sawing a girl's vagina with his hand and his mate's fucking dick is out. And he's got a massive dick as well. You're not going to kick him out for that.
The massive dick.
They've all got Maori tattoos with living Ghost sign.
There'll be every now and then there'll be a 60-man brawl and there'll be a video and it'll be on the South Wales Evening Post website.
My stag night was in Swansea, right?
Right.
We go for a night out and it's all fancy dressed, typical, proper traditional stag night. We get to Wine Street. And we had a bit of promise from Swansea rugby boys earlier, and it all sort of died down a bit. The only person who got kicked out that night for fighting was Kelly's dad. Kelly's 60-year-old Swansea City season ticket holding dad, right? Got kicked out for fighting. Go on, Jeff.
Right, Mike, your clip for round number 1. What have you gone for?
Right, so my clip, we'll expand on it later. This is the Wales football team watching Iceland beat England in the Euros a couple of years ago. Now, the reason I picked this is I love this clip, right? Because this is what sport is all about. And we talk quite often about what people who don't play sport or don't get it, don't understand, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the Germans, fair play, I've got a good word for it, Schadenfreude, right? As a sportsman or sportswoman, you can take almost as much, if not as much pleasure from watching your rivals lose as you can from your team winning, right?
Yeah.
And there was a thing that they when this got leaked into the press and online, the number of arseholes who had to go to Wales for celebrating England losing. England's our biggest rival, right? And we're the little brother, they're the big brother.
It's an imbalanced rivalry.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's like when you're any small country with a big neighbour, right?
Canada with America. I know Canada is a large place.
Exactly.
But it's the same sort of thing.
Holland,
New Zealand
Holland,
with Australia.
Holland, Germany's a great one, yeah. So to see that, and then the people came on online saying how unsporting it was. How dare they? Look at this. This is, but immediately the same people saying that the Welsh boys were being jingoistic or racist.
Yeah.
Were the ones turning around saying, "Look at these sad Welsh players doing this," and it was all about bitter Welsh people and bitterness didn't come into it. Those boys play with their mates who are English on the same team all the time. It's not that. It's what sport is. And whenever, if I go on, if England lose the rugby, and it's the old adage that you support two teams, Wales and Wales playing against England, right? That's just when the rugby rolls round, and I take great pleasure in England losing in rugby to Scotland or France, or it doesn't matter, Ireland. I love it. And the number of English fans who get in touch and say, "Well, I think it's pathetic." Why? Well, if unless they're playing against England, I always support Wales. Well, fucking don't then, you idiot. Why? We don't want you to.
You're not.
I've noticed this.
Why would you do that?
A lot of English supporters get quite upset that Welsh fans or Scottish fans or Northern Irish or Irish fans won't support them when they would. It's that home nations idea. I'll support the home nations. I'll support any of the home nations.
That's what So the day after this, there was a press conference. Everyone's all the Daily Mail and whoever else has gone quite big on this. Put the video up on their website. So
the Daily Mail.
What are the chances?
That bastion of anti-racism.
There are two approaches if you're the FAW, aren't there? You can kind of batten down the hatches, or you can put up your most intelligent players for interview. So they put up Chris Gunter.
Who I adore, by the way.
Chris Gunter once bought me lunch, not with Nigel Havers and Smoking Joe Frazier, but from Pratt. It was appreciated.
Chris Gunter is the best example of a fans representative on the pitch I've ever seen, I think. So he was on the books at Cardiff City, because he's from Newport, but he was on the books at Cardiff City from a very young age. And he was going away on normal supporters coaches until 2007. And his brother still does Wales away trips like I would, like in the normal, like sort of quite cheap hotel. He's not staying with the players. But I mean, that chin up gesture he did when we lost to England in the second game, when he came up to the Welsh end and did a chin up sign as if to say it's going to be fine, don't worry about it, we've got Russia to come. That's my favourite sporting photograph of all time.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing, and
I wish people could see Alice's face when he said that.
Yeah, he was proper. I was ready to fight for him then.
I love that man.
So what did he say then in the press?
So at the press conference, they start chucking questions at him, and he just went, "Look, I'm not going to apologise for it.
No, fucking
because you've got to understand, like you're saying, years of oppression. I've not experienced that, but there has been, and we lose all the time to you lot.
Yeah,
so we lose to England.
Rivalry.
We are the little brother. If you can't take that, fine.
But
I'm not going to sit here and say sorry about it.
The difference between the rugby and the football is that the record in the rugby is very even. The record in the football is our record against English is dreadful in football.
Yeah.
So we didn't beat them at Wembley until 1977, and we've been playing there since 1923. Until Bale's goal at the Euros, we haven't scored against them since 1984. Like we've only beaten them 14 times.
But also with that Euros, it wasn't like they lost to, a really strong France team. They lost to Iceland.
Yeah.
I think as a small country,
population,
you really identify with that. They're even smaller than what are they? The population of Cardiff?
Yes, 300,000, smaller than Cardiff.
What are your chances of playing for Iceland then? If I lived in Iceland,
these statistics exist. I mean, people work this out. It's 1 in 20.
Is it really?
Because if you take a footballer as being aged 18 to 35,
I'm crap though.
So it's roughly 150,000 men in Iceland who were eligible. So if you take it down to 18 to 35, 1 in 20.
So 1 in 20 of them is available, and they beat England.
When they beat England, there were 30,000 Iceland fans in the ground. Or there's certainly 30,000 Iceland fans had travelled over. That's 10% of the country.
It's amazing.
That's brilliant.
10%
So of course
of the
Wales
country.
are going to love that. It's dickheads who get offended by it because they don't play. They don't know what it's like. There's no real animosity between Welsh players and English players. None at all.
Or, like, the same as Kevin Ratcliffe always tells a story of when he was at Everton and was captain and Wales failed to qualify for countless tournaments. Neville Southall and Pat Van Howe, at the end of the season, would always wind up with holiday brochures being put into their bags after the last training session by all of their teammates. Because you ain't going to a major tournament, guys.
When Wales failed to qualify for USA 94 when we lost to Romania, Dean Saunders was at Villa and he was playing alongside Steve Staunton, who was playing for the Republic of Ireland. So the Irish managed it, they did qualify. But by that stage, England had messed it up. So it looked like England weren't going to qualify, but Wales would. And Steve Staunton and Dean Saunders, they hired like Uncle Sam sort of outfits because they were going to go into training dressed as Americans.
It was such a long wait for a good Welsh team to do well at a tournament, right? And that was, it was that whole period of time around those Euro Championships was absolutely joyous. Yeah. I mean, I went out and bought like a 1978 Toshak kit, right? So I went and bought my son. I remember saying to my little boy then, he said, "Can I have a Wales kit, Dad?" I said, well, yeah, okay. If we get out of the groups, I said they're quite expensive. You know, he was little, you know, but he didn't want the sort of Tesco 2-stripe version. He wanted the proper one. I said, if we get out of the group, I'll get you a Welsh kit. Thinking that's safe.
Sorted that. That's 50 quid saved.
So, exactly right. I don't know, fuck. So I bought him the full kit. I thought I might as well get myself a 78 kit as well. So I did. He said, "Can I have the away kit, Dad?" And I went, right. I said, if we get to the semi-finals, I'll buy you an away kit, right? And then we did. I was like, and I'm buying a few. So he's got to learn that sometimes parents lie, you know. So
it was the best month of my life by a long distance, by a country mile. The only regret I have is that I couldn't be in two places in once. In that I couldn't be in Wales and in France. Yeah, because you see the footage of the fun park in Cardiff and the one in town in Swansea as well, and in every Welsh town, it's just absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah, to the bloody! I've never been to an open top parade before in my life.
Yeah,
but I took my son down there, and we're waving at Chris Coleman, and there was just thousands of people everywhere, you know. So of course, and then to top it all off, the cherry on the cake, your biggest rivals, with your mates that you see all the time and wind you up for being Welsh all the time. Yeah. Lose to a country the size of Cardiff. Well, fuck, of course you're going to go ballistic. Yeah. Of course you are. I'll tell you what that brought home as well, and we got a couple of listeners who aren't from Wales, so, you know, there's not many, I know, but...
We're still relatable, it's fine.
For the one in Belgium and the other one, right?
The fella in Malta.
The one in Australia is Welsh, so we can discount it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's obviously Wales is synonymous with rugby, right? But I grew up in Barry, I live in Cardiff, El's from Carmarthen, my wife's from Swansea, you're from Newport, Steph. They're all football towns, right?
Yeah, they are.
Football is huge. Like when I was a kid in Barry, there would be 50, 60 kids' football teams every Saturday, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was football.
And the difference, what football never had, which became of rugby, is that the Five Nations and then the Six Nations was effectively our St. Patrick's Day, far more than St. David's Day is on March the 1st. Yeah. So we've got, 5 St. Patrick's Days. And I would agree, sort of, when you look at all of the international rugby players that have come out of Carmarthen, even just to have come out of my school, you'd think we'd be rugby obsessed. But on Monday morning, we were all talking about Match of the Day and playing football on the yard.
Right, let's do documentaries. It's my turn this week, and after Bruce Lee Gate, I figured I have to step my game up. trepidatious, shall we say.
Good word.
I don't know if it is a word.
It is a word. It is a word.
Should be.
Back
God,
yourself,
that.
man.
Whew. No, I'm a nervous wreck. We're going to go with this one from HBO. It is Legendary Knights, Gatty Ward. So these guys fought 3 times. They were, well, you probably know Mickey Ward from the film The Fighter. Arturo Gatti was very similar to Mickey Ward in terms of his style of fighting. They had 3 fantastic fights, and this documentary is about them.
It was so brutal going back and forth that I remember even sliding down in my chair, kind of covering my face and peeking through my fingers.
You know, he's throwing punches now like he's never been hurt at all. And now Arturo comes back. It's amazing.
Vicious body shots by Gatti. Ward nods as if to say, come on, come on. Come on, let's fight.
You know, you don't see rounds like this ever.
And going into the last minute, Mickey started having his way with Arturo.
Ward should go right back to the body. Just imagine if you bought a ticket.
Mickey's eye is bleeding. This looks like a scene from Rocky. This doesn't look like a fight.
I've been toying up whether to choose round 9 of the first fight as a clip. And then I just thought this really tells the story of the guys better than the fighter does, because the fighter doesn't get to this stage of Mickey Ward's career. It tells a lot of Dickie Eklund's story, which is Mickey Ward's half-brother, who's his trainer. So if you want to know the backstory of him, you can either seek out the HBO documentary about crackheads that he's in, or you can watch The Fighter, which kind of tells that story too. But Ward and Gatti are my kind of boxers.
What I will say, Steph, before we go any further, is
it's a crock of shit.
No,
go on.
No, you've completely redeemed yourself with this one. After Brucegate, this I thoroughly enjoyed this. When people talk about, obviously, the Rocky franchise is based on Stallone's experiences of, you know, he's a big boxing fan, but this is a real life Rocky story. You know, I remember this fight happening. I remember these series of fights happening.
Yeah,
I'll repeat this because it bears repeating. People who don't get it won't get it.
Yes,
and how two men can. It was basically a 30-round fight with 2 breaks. It was crazy. I mean, those 3 fights, 3 10-round absolute slugfests, where I think there's a line in Rocky where he says about didn't he punch the hate out of each other? There's something like that. There's a line like that, and they end up being the best of friends. And I just think, Christ on a bike, how can you? That bit when I think it's in the second fight, and not even in the third fight, when they hugged before the 10th round.
Oh my God, amazing.
I was like, holy shit.
Amazing.
the first fight is like fight of the century. The commentators are going nuts about it.
Yeah.
Round 9 of that. If you want to watch one round of boxing, watch round 9 of Gatti Ward 1, because it bears comparison with a load of title fights.
It reminded me of Hagler and Hearns, the first round of Hagler and Hearns.
Yeah.
Which is mad.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the 14th round of Frasier Ali in Manila. That's horrible and crazy level of boxing. But because these aren't world title fights, I think if you're a boxing fan, or if you ask any boxer, they will go to these fights as some of their default ones for that's brilliant.
Though, as a series of fights, and the first one in particular, if it were a piece of fiction, it would stretch the credibility of the viewer.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that happens in all sports. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the Super Over and the Cricket World Cup final last year. I'm thinking of Liverpool coming back to beat Barcelona in the semi-final, Trent's corner in particular. But it happened. And that is why we turn up, and that is why we turn up week after week. And that's why I watched Sheffield Wednesday versus the Swans this afternoon.
When your tweets change every 2 minutes, are hilarious.
Bill.
This is awful. This is brilliant. I love football. I hate you.
It's the new dawn.
So that will always happen. But I think boxing seems to lend itself more to this. It's probably the power of the knockout, or the potential of the knockout punch, where, you know, the competition can end. With
you take the first fight, and Gatti gets knocked down by a body shot. That should be it. That should be the end of this being a story, and there shouldn't be a second or a third fight because Ward's won it and he's knocked him down.
And Ward's won it, and it's his moment, having lost 11 fights in what was regarded as a journeyman's career. A club fighter is what the HBO commentator described him.
36 years of age.
36 years of age.
You know?
And he gets to make $1 million in his next fight because people like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they go to the boardwalk in Atlantic City, which is... It's. Have you ever been to Atlantic City?
No.
It is.
I know you were there with Nigel Havers, didn't you?
Yeah, me and Nigel flew over to.
Yeah, with Dom DeLuise and Fred Astaire, wasn't it?
Yeah, I went with Gandhi actually. I should have said.
You did say you had twos up on Princess Grace.
It's like if you went to Vegas in the 70s.
This sounds right.
But as soon as you stepped out of a casino, you were in Skegness.
I'll just change that.
It's the worst place I've ever been in my life.
Really?
It's the entire boardwalk is full of crackheads, and the casinos are full of depressing gamblers. Whereas Vegas is full of really high-flying, cool, let's play craps. This is full of old grannies putting money in the slots at 3 a.m. who were there at 3 p.m.
There's a lot of that in Vegas as well. I mean, you go into a 7-Eleven.
You don't see Richard Gere there with Julia Roberts or anything.
Go into a 7-Eleven to buy a can of Sprite, and there'll be some old lady on the gambler in Vegas. It's a very, very weird place. I'm not sure I'd go back, actually. I went to watch Calzaghe fight Bernard Hopkins in Vegas. So we all, me and my mate who liked boxing all went, because we didn't realise that he'd win, and B, that would then be his launchpad for his American career, because he fought Roy Jones Jr. in New York a year later. And I wish I'd gone to that one instead, because I'm not a gambler. And if you don't like gambling,
it's quite boring, isn't it?
Literally nothing to do in Las Vegas. It's quite a big place, so I assumed, obviously, that it would be gambling orientated. I didn't think they'd
be focused on it.
Be absolutely nothing else.
You've read The Rough Guide, haven't you? But he's a Massachusetts boy. He's got a Bruins sweatshirt at the beginning. So I'm assuming he's like a Boston area boy, right?
Yeah, he's from Lowell in Massachusetts.
And we talked right at the top about Cavett being like a Welsh grandparent, right? Mm. If that was Irish, he'd be known as like Irish Dick Cavett.
Yes. Yeah.
But the Welsh tend to sort of assimilate quickly. So I mean, like Mickey Ward, I assume was born in the States.
Well, I looked into this because his nickname was Irish Mickey Ward. We're talking great grandparents.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
I assume that both his parents were from Cork, and that they'd moved over to.
They both kissed the Blarney.
And they'd moved over to America 6 months before he was born, and he went back there all the time. No, he's completely.
He's from the east coast of America.
He's completely Massachusetts.
He's a redhead. He is Irish Mickey Ward.
I love that. The Irish, and they're shameless. The Irish about this, aren't they? Absolutely shameless. I've lived in North America. The number of Irish bars. It's like Rod Stewart with his fucking Scotland bit.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart's about as Scottish as me. True story. My dad in North Berwick, the Nether Abbey Hotel in North Berwick. My dad was up there on a rugby tour in the 70s. He used to stay at the Nether Abbey Hotel, and I think the bloke. Let me get this right now. I think the bloke who owned the Nether Abbey at the time was the cousin of Rod Stewart, I believe. Right? So my dad went there in 72 or 73. He gave my dad the room that Britt Eklund and Rod Stewart had the week before.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, how good's that? I mean, it'd be even better if they were still in there. And Dad was...
Well,
Dad was like one of those...
Back in the dark days of Swansea City in the late 90s. Around the sort of Tony Petty era, Britt Eklund's brother was apparently interested in buying the Swans.
Oh. Gary Eklund?
Yeah. The thing used to hear all the time in pubs in Swansea.
His brother nearly bought Swansea City.
And you used to hear this all the time in the pubs around the Vetch, in the Garibaldi and the Builders Arms and those pubs and the Clarence. You used to hear this all the time. What I don't understand, right, is why doesn't Catherine Zeta-Jones, Bonnie Tyler... just give the club £10 million and say, do your fucking worst.
It's nothing of them. Like, it's a small change, like, innit?
Why does
she make a film?
Why doesn't Catherine Zeta-Jones just give the club, give Doug Sharp £10 million to say, do your fucking worst?
What's Mike Douglas worth? It's nothing to him, man. Nothing to him.
It's fucking loose change to Michael Douglas, isn't it? We are scrapping for our lives in League 2.
Sticking the club now.
He could sort the fucking club out in an hour. Why doesn't he do it? I don't understand.
And he won't fucking do it, like.
Yeah.
What's fucking wrong with him, like, you know what I mean?
She's always going on about how much she fucking loves her hometown. Why doesn't she fucking bang that club 10 million quid? I never understand.
And Bonnie fucking Tyler, man, she's thick as fucking thieves of meatloaf. I know for a fact he's minted.
Why doesn't Jim Steinman, Meatloaf, Bonnie Tyler, bang Doug Sharp 10 million quid and say...
All the boys turn up at the Vetch on fucking big motorbikes, right? I can see the lodge now, lovely. Meets there with his wife, Mrs. Loaf, right?
Meets.
Mr. and Mrs. Loaf on the halfway line, and all the boys turn up on motorbikes.
Get the cunt to sing at half time. Job done. Everyone goes down Derek's Records, buys a single.
What about Shaking Stevens Day? He's a fucking Cardiff boy, you fucking idiot. You can save Cardiff City. We got Bonnie Tyler and Catherine Zeta-Jones down here.
Oh my gosh.
Where's Andy Hopkins from? Port Talbot.
Never know. Could be either.
Yeah, could
be either. Port Talbot. Don't know.
Swing both ways on it, isn't he? They swing both ways. They're right at the cusp there, aren't they, Port Talbot?
Well, Port Talbot's like 5 miles from Swansea, but there's a load of Cardiff City fans in Port Talbot for some reason. I think it's because a lot of people from Cardiff moved down to Sandfields Estate to work in the steelworks in the 60s, I think is why.
Yeah, it's the glamour of it, isn't it? What makes me laugh about Swansea, mate, more than any other place I've been to in the world, right, is, and this is very much including my wife's family, right, they think the world basically ends at Port Talbot. Right? You've seen the Truman Show. There's that dome.
Yeah.
That he sort of bangs into at the end. Well, for them, that dome starts in Port Talbot.
Yeah.
And goes about maybe 8 miles.
Yeah.
Junction 48.
Yeah.
Junction 48, right. When I first started seeing my wife, she'd say, "Oh, I've got to get the car MOT tomorrow." I said, "Oh, no problem. I'll drop it down for you." No, so you follow me down in your car. I said, "To where?" Bryn Everett. I said, "Bryn Everett in Swansea? What are you going there for?" "Get me MOT." I said, "To the fucking MOT in Cardiff, what are you doing?" So her dentist, her doctor, her MOTs, her opticians, everything was in Swansea. Right?
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
Right? She was like the black sheep of the family because she had the audacity to leave Swansea, right? Because her dad, her mum, all the uncles, all the aunts, all everyone else lives in Swansea within about, 150 yards of each other, right? And we should go down there every weekend, right?
Yeah.
I said, "Well, why didn't you come up one weekend? Your dad." "Oh, he doesn't like to drive." I said, "Well, he's a plumber. He drives all the time. He's got, but he just does his plumbing route in the Swansea area."
Yeah.
So the one Christmas he said, "All right, Mike, it's Jeff in here." I said, "All right, Jeff." "Yeah, what it is, right? We're going to go shopping in MacArthur Glen for Christmas." I said, "Okay, yeah, oh, fair enough. Do you want to meet us halfway? Meet us there?" So, because we didn't want to drive to Cardiff, he would drive halfway. So rather than drive the full 40 miles, which takes about 40 minutes, he drove to MacArthur Glen Shopping Centre.
In Bridgend.
Which, if you don't know the area, is in Bridgend. So we had to drive 20 miles from our house. He drove 20 miles from his house and went to a Frankie and Benny's in a shopping centre instead.
But the spud you like.
Yeah. Well, we went to Frankie Benny's because we were posh, but I mean, that for him, that was like a big excursion. But Gatty Ward, though.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
I tell you the weird thing about that Gatty Ward.
Go on.
And it's lovely as well. Is his wife, who apparently when Mickey Ward's wife met him, didn't know he was a boxer.
Yeah.
It takes a special sort of woman to understand that and to support that.
The bit where she says, "Oh, he finally was in the ring with someone else who would happily leave with their ear hanging off."
Oh,
well,
God.
Whoa.
Boxing commentators and journalists always say styles make fights. And they both said what made it so explosive was that we were fighting people who were like each other. And that they were fighting mirror images of each other. And, Gatti breaks his hand very early on in one of the fights. I think
That's the third one. Yeah.
He breaks his hand in the first or second round and continues. Mickey Ward shatters his eardrum, so he's got no balance.
Oh, that was insane.
That's insane. Yeah.
I do not understand how he can continue. So a mate of mine had labyrinthitis and it affected his balance, and he was off work for weeks.
Just couldn't watch that David Bowie film.
But labyrinthitis is an ear infection, is an in-ear ear infection, and he was off work for weeks.
I love sport.
Couldn't stand it. But
Brilliant,
imagine boxing with that. It would be
he goes
horrific.
So it's the second fight, and he goes from whatever round it is. I think it's like the second or the third round, and he staggers into the corner post.
Yeah, face first.
And you just think,
head first, bang.
And the interview with him where he goes, I thought I was out on the boardwalk. It's like, oh my God, you find that hilarious, mate.
So Gatti gets him
in old Dublin town.
Yeah. So Gatti gets
wandering
him
down the Liffey, hammered.
So Gatti gets him in the ear, catches him in the ear, pretty much knocks him out and shatters his eardrum in the third round. And then he hits him again, and he goes, so he knocked me out, and then he woke me up in the same round.
That's it, when he said, the punch.
He knocked me out and woke me up. I don't think concussion works like that. I don't think it's ever worked like that.
I'm not a scientist.
Well, it's never been tried, is it?
I don't think there's an A&E department in the country where if you went in with a concussion, a doctor would say, we need to hit him again.
Just gives you a right cross on the jaw.
I know what'll sort him out.
Oh, I've perked right up. Thank you for that. Mrs. Davis, you're next.
So the moment at the end of the third fight where they just they don't quite embrace because they haven't got the energy, but they've got their arms on each other's shoulders and their heads against each other.
They're
so beautiful.
Water bottle as well.
They share a water bottle during the interview. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's lovely.
That is really, really cool.
The amazing thing at the end of the film, which I did not see coming, was the fact that Mickey Ward then becomes Gatti's trainer.
That was like Apollo Creed and Rocky. That's what I mean.
Because obviously he's 7 years older, but Gatti still has some the gas left in the tank. So then Mickey Ward becomes his trainer. Says, "Well, I wasn't there to teach him how to box. He could box brilliantly. I was there to inspire him, and to motivate him."
Second round of clips, then Mike, you're up first.
Yeah, I've sort of tried to shy away from doing the obvious stuff as a Welsh bloke doing a podcast loosely about sport. But I couldn't resist this any longer. This was sent in by a listener. I have no idea who they are.
No, that's fine. because they do.
They know who they are. And they seem to be, by the way, they seem happy with that now. They're happy with it. I mean, that's why they're in the shadows and they're happy to be there. So there's very few people in sport or in any sort of public life that are just known by their initials, right? But this is a clip of JPR.
There was no man as competitive as him. There was no man as brave as him. And when he put that red jersey on, he was almost unbeatable.
He changed the way that people played the game. There won't be a better fullback, there's no doubt about that.
John Williams as safe as houses under any kind of pressure.
He's just out of the bath, he's got stitches in his head. How's the eye, John? Oh, it's very good, there's only 2 stitches.
He was just a one-off, a remarkable player.
So there we are. I mean, there's very few things. The only one thing I don't like about this club I'll get to in a second, but there's a lot of things to like about it.
Okay.
Obviously, he was extremely tough.
Yes.
He was a very educated bloke, very forthright, extremely talented and extremely skillful and very hard working. And I think he was a bit of a polyglot. He could do a lot of different, quite famously he played tennis and do all the other things as well. Yeah. But and that's not the bad thing. I mean, the tennis is not the bad thing. I'll get to the bad thing in a minute. It's just tough as teak, right? Like, you watch the famous Barbars try, when people talk about the 73 try against the Barbars. He almost gets decapitated twice in that.
Yes.
I mean, people always going for the headshot with JPR, right? So he was really, really tough. There's a clip on there where they're playing New Zealand for Bridgend.
Yes.
And if you watch it, he gets stamped, like a heel stamp as well in the eye. It was a really vicious stamp. And Steve Fenwick talks about it, says, he's off, he's gone. And JPR said, I'll be back in a minute, Steve. Look after the team.
He discusses this in his autobiography.
Right.
Which, oddly, for someone who doesn't like rugby, I have read.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
I've also read JPR.
On your shelf next to Gav's autobiography.
Phil Bennett's one and Gareth Edwards' one. The thing with those books as well is because rugby obviously was amateur in those days, they are a very interesting snapshot of Wales, those autobiographies, because they remained and stayed in their communities because they had to work there as well as play for the local side. But he had so many stitches because you could see his tongue through his cheek because it's slashed open. And there's a picture in the photographs.
Is there?
In the middle, and it's a horrendous injury. And the caption is, not a pleasant sight for schoolboy spectators.
I mean, the only downside of it is, I was watching the football today, and Grealish playing for Aston Villa there, right? Who's got a fantastic set of calves on the man. But I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him naked. I want to see a sock on him.
I don't know.
The only thing with JPR, you'd always play with his socks rolled.
Yeah, the Ultima Socks roll down merchant, which I love. I'm big into that.
I'm a big fan of it.
I think it looks
really
cool. I think it looks cool.
It's uncouth. There's no need for it.
I was always an odd socks and them rolled down around the ankles.
Oh no, not odd socks, but sunny rolled down.
What a wank!
I would never.
Well, I mean, we've established that down the years.
I would.
Well, if someone's gone to the time and effort to design a kit and to make the kit, the very least you can do is wear it properly.
Oh no, I will. I'll roll my socks down at first opportunity. All right then, get this. JPR, 71 years of age, born in March 1949. Guess when he retired from playing for rugby.
I know when he retired. I knew he was playing for Tondy on the flank.
He was
well into his 50s.
Yeah, he was playing for Tondy thirds as a flanker until 2003.
Shut up.
Yeah,
2003. That's brilliant.
A man who was synonymous with rugby in the 70s, made his debut in the 60s, playing for Tondy thirds until 2003.
Which means he would have started playing rugby in the 50s. And Phil Bennett, the way Phil Bennett talks about him, like, apart from Jiffy, I mean, Jiffy's the best player I've seen play.
Yes.
Right? When I watched the old films, my favourite outside half, and we had a lot to choose from in Wales, we're very lucky, was Phil Bennett.
Yeah, I'd go him above Barry John as well, because of the sidestep.
So anyone that Phil Bennett thinks is one of the best players to ever pull a jersey on, that's good enough for me. Right?
Phil Bennett, speaking voice. Superb.
What a man.
The other thing with JPR, as someone who's read his autobiography, even though I don't like rugby, he often claims to have won Junior Wimbledon in 1966. It's not true. It was a Soviet bloke who won it in 1960.
Yes, it was.
He won a competition in Wimbledon in the 1960s.
As a junior.
As a junior. He talks about this in his autobiography. He says something like,
I won Junior Wimbledon.
I realised that I was Junior Wimbledon champion. No, you weren't, mate.
He massively won. He beat David Lloyd at Wimbledon in a tournament. He doesn't clarify whether that was David Lloyd, the cricketer, or the tennis player. Yeah.
I mean, I've been more disappointed in Wimbledon myself. If in his autobiography he said, I went to Wimbledon, then afterwards I bought a baked bean special of Razzle, then fair play to him.
The Lions tour of 77 to New Zealand, which the Lions lost the Test series, and there is a book called The Long Lost Lions Tour of 1977.
You do read a lot about sport you don't like, don't you?
Do you know what it is? It's because Dad had all these books. In the pre-internet age, if there was nothing good on telly and we didn't have Sky, so we only had 4 channels to choose from, I would just pick up a book and read it. And because Dad had all of the autobiographies of the 70s players and all of the books pertaining to 70s rugby, it meant that it just means that I've read them all because I was bored as a teenager.
But at no point did you feel steered back towards the light, did you?
Do you know what? It's been very useful for this podcast. The interesting thing with the 77 tour is that squad was overwhelmingly Welsh. There were 17 Welsh boys in that squad. I don't know if this is still the case, but the Welsh players on Lions tours were notorious for being homesick.
I played for the Toronto Welsh Rugby Club.
Yeah.
And then on a Sunday, some of the older Toronto Welsh Rugby Club types would go to Eglwys Dewi Sant Toronto. And then there'd be underneath on a Sunday, we'd have you have your service all in Welsh and you all sing hymns or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you go underneath into the sort of little basement area. There'd be Welsh cakes and cups of tea and everything. And just all these old Welsh people talking about how much they miss Wales and how much they love Wales. And this is a very Welsh thing.
Go on.
To bang on about how much you love Wales,
yes.
and you literally can't wait to get out of there.
Yeah,
like that.
It's like Elis.
That Daniel Jones fella who went to Patagonia, right?
Michael D. Jones.
Michael D. Jones.
In 1865.
Right? To keep Welsh culture and the Welsh language going, he fucked off out of Wales, right?
Well, he'd given up on Wales, so he thought we'll just start again. We'll start Wales again.
In classic Welsh style. Bear in mind he's going to one of the most inhospitable places on the planet, right?
Yes.
Right? He took no geologists.
Yes.
No builders.
Yeah.
No architects.
No farmers.
No scientists. No farmers. There was 4 people in a choir.
4 people in a choir. And you go somewhere where you can't grow anything.
And a load of tailors. So they all looked great.
A clog dancer, 2 tailors.
The hilarious singer Michael D. Jones, starting again in Patagonia in 1865. He thought, right, where are we going to do this then? And I think they looked at Utah, where the Mormons were.
Vancouver Island was one.
Yeah, Vancouver Island. They were like, okay, where are we going to start again? Where are we going to start again?
Where
are we going to start again?
Where's there no grass?
The one place.
I'm thinking Antarctic Circle.
Second on the list after Patagonia was Israel. Can you imagine?
That'd be fun.
Chuck in the Welsh are doing already combustive mix.
Budge up.
What are you not arguing about then? What are you arguing about?
Oh. Hey, whoa, no. Whoa. We're all religious. It's a holy land, boys. You can have the Golan Heights, boys. Listen, get the Palestinians over now. Come on.
Come on, boys.
Come on, boys.
Come on.
All in.
What's he said now?
Yeah. What's he said?
What's he said?
You had a bit of fun, boys, right? But now it's time.
Listen, we've got 2 competing religious doctrines here, arguing over the same plot of land, and we've turned up. But
boys, man, I love a schism as much as the next man, but the time has come, right?
Promises have been made, boys.
Do you honestly think that Abraham would want his boys having a fight with each other? Right? Yes. We have different point of view. And that's healthy and to be encouraged. I can't see the problem. We'll have a Sunday, you have a Saturday. Right?
Oh, you're spoiling it now. Hey, you're spoiling it now. Come on.
No, not on my watch. So what are we on about then?
JPR.
What are we talking about?
JPR.
JPR Williams, that's it. Yeah, so
I've noticed, Al, you're under your headphones there.
Yeah.
He's rocking the Burns, isn't he?
I don't even think it looks good. It's just Izzy doesn't care,
No.
and I don't see anyone else. So I've experimented.
Oh, you got low expectations.
Wow.
So Izzy doesn't care.
What a low bar for stuff.
So I've been experimenting, yeah.
Married men and men in a long-term relationship around the country, myself included,
Yeah.
just nodded in complete recognition there. It's not the fact she doesn't like him or does like him, it's the fact she doesn't care.
She hadn't noticed. She hadn't noticed for a long time, and then I pointed them out. And she
hadn't noticed your sideburns.
I put a picture on Twitter, and someone said I looked like an indebted market trader from the 1870s.
Oh, nice.
So it's straight out of Dickens, straight out of the Pickwick Papers, and yeah,
Martin Chuzzlewit mixed with Holder. I would say.
And Izzy just hadn't noticed.
JPR though, fair play.
Fair play. Great rugby.
I tell you what I miss, right?
Go on.
Is the away trip, is the rugby away trip, and I was talking to Al.
Go on.
One of my favourite experiences in recent memory was we were in Edinburgh for the rugby a few years ago. My friend Jason and myself.
Right.
And we were in a pub there on a Friday night, and it was absolutely packed, absolutely jam-packed, shoulder to shoulder. Right? And these 2 Scots lads walked in. They were smashed, even by the standards of the pub, were smashed. Both in kilts, right? So we were talking to some girls from Wales. They start chanting off, 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 off. They want to know what these lads got under their kilts, right?
Yeah.
So the first fella picks his kilt up, and there it is. There's his meat and 2 vegetables, right? Everyone cheers, fairly nondescript, right? the kilt goes back down. And then they're going to his mate there. Off. And he's having none of it. He's trying to bat people away and they're trying to get his kilt up and whatever. Off. Eventually they pull his kilt up. And he's got a pair of underpants on, right? And then the whole place boos.
Yeah.
Boo. Off. The second off comes on, right?
Yeah.
So with this now, I'm looking at this thinking, what's this clown doing here now? So he's trying to get his underpants off, but he's stumbling all over the place because he's so pissed. Eventually he gets his underpants off, right? And he holds them up in the air like he's, triumphantly.
Won the World Cup.
At which point, it was like the Matrix. The whole sort of bar went, whoa, and everyone sort of leant back in slow motion, right?
Yeah.
As he's swinging these underpants around. Because he'd shit himself, right? And there was just a massive turd in his underpants, right? I thought, how drunk must you be, right? How drunk must you be to not only shit yourself, but to not know you shit yourself, and then to swing your underpants with the shit in it around a crowded pub in Edinburgh. But he thought we were appalled then. We could see his penis. He's going, "You're fucking wrong, you man. You never seen a cock and balls before, eh? You never seen a fucking cock and balls before." I thought, mate, it's not the cock and balls anyone's worried about. It's you wafting that turd around like it's a fucking animal.
Do you know what? I love a drink. The moment I shit myself, the night is over.
It's done.
I'm
going home.
I'm done. Going home.
I've had enough, boys. We've all had a nice night.
I'm going back to the
home.
hotel. I'm so sorry.
It was like a fuel air bomb. When I was doing the Edinburgh Festival in 2009, and Al was there. We were in the same venue. His was rather better attended than mine was, but that's besides the point. So I was having a shit time of it. And it's tough. Like when the Edinburgh Festival is not a fun place to be.
Okay.
You're an act, right? The second week in now, and I'm pretty pissed off. And my mate John came in to see me from Barry. And he said, "How you doing, mate?" I said, "Oh yeah, all right, not bad." So he came to the show, which sort of doubled the numbers, right? So he said, "Right, come on, I'll take out for a few beers."
Yeah.
But my show, I had a shit time. It was like 1:40 till 2:40 in the afternoon. So we're in this place by 2:45, right? And it's this old Scottish guy at the bar. He goes, "Where are you from, lads? Where are you from, lads?" I said, "We're from Barry in South Wales." "Ah, I fucking love the Welsh, man. I fucking love the Welsh. They're great people, the Welsh. Yeah. Yeah, cheers, mate. I like the Scottish. I'll buy you a drink. I said, "No, we're around, mate. You're okay." No, fuck that. No, I'll buy you a drink. Come on. What are you having? I said, "No, honestly, we're having a pint now." "Ah, no, fuck that." "Hey, 3 whiskies. Large whiskies. 3 of them. 2 large whiskies for me and my friends." So he hands us like these shitty, like, own brand large whiskies, right? No ice, no nothing. Standing there. And I my laptop bag with me. I put the laptop bag on the floor. I'm looking at John thinking, I don't really want to drink a warm shit whiskey at 2:45 in the afternoon. So with that now, I assume as his missus walks in, right?
Yeah.
Barges in the place. "You fucking bastard!" He's going, "Fuck you! Go fuck yourself! You fucking bastard!" And they're having a full-on bang at the two of them. Jesus Christ, look at it. "You're buying fucking strangers drinks! I'll buy all fucking like it's my fucking money. Fuck you! Oh, fuck you, you bastard!" So with that, she whips his drink off him, right? And fucking necks this double whiskey. Gone, right? I'm looking at John. She grabs John's drink, bangs John's drink back. I'm thinking, what? Grabs my drink, knocks my drink back, right? So she's done 3 double whiskies in about 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Then she goes, throws up all over my laptop bag, right? And then fucks off. At which point the Scottish guy goes, "Sorry about that," and fucks off as well. So we've been there about 2 minutes. I just look at John and go, "What happened?" We just stood there. There's sick all over my laptop. And it was still like 10-3.
Ah, right, Al. Clip number 2 from you. What have we got?
In the early 2000s, I was working in Cardiff, and I worked with a bloke who'd been a massive Cardiff City fan since the 70s, a regular down at Indian Park. It was just up to Cardiff, had beaten Leeds in the FA Cup third round, I think it was, at Ninian Park.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, is that the best football match you've ever been to? Expecting him to say yes, and he said no. And I was really surprised at this, so I thought, it must be a Wales game. I thought, what would that be? You know, the best game of football I've ever been to is Manchester United 3, Barcelona 0, in the European Cup Winners' Cup quarter-final from 1984.
United muster the forces on the near post. Whiteside is there, so too is Stapleton. A goal! Robson right on the line.
I asked him why. Now, the thing with this story, it's such a mid-80s story. Football's changed so much. So it's the quarter-final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. United are 2-0 down. They're playing Barcelona. Barcelona, it's not actually a vintage Barcelona team. They haven't won the league for about 10 years. They won it the following season, in fact. But they've still got Maradona playing for them as the world's best player.
Yeah.
But they'd win the Copa del Rey, obviously, which is how they'd qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup. Now, the reason it's such an 80s story is that my mate Neil, who I worked with, big Cardiff City fan, was friends with a Man United fan. And he said, what are you doing today, Neil? Oh, nothing much, I'm not working. I'm going to Old Trafford. Do you fancy coming? Now, the idea that you could just rock up on the day to Old Trafford to watch Man United play Barcelona, two giants of European football, neither of them had tickets. So they'd just driven it from Cardiff. So neither of the two of them had tickets. Got tickets on the day. If you're a United fan of a certain vintage, this is a legendary fixture because the atmosphere at Old Trafford's incredible. So they've got to overturn a 2-goal deficit. So they've got to win 3-0. Now, one thing I love about European football back in those days, which has been lost, is that you had United and Barcelona, two giants of the game. They'd never played each other before. So now, because 4 teams in England and other countries as well obviously qualify for the Champions League and the group stages, and then you've got the Europa League as well. These big clubs play each other all the time, and it's really taken the magic out of it. So Brian Robson, who was one of England's most talented players of the 1980s, grabs the game by the scruff of the neck in that way that he does. He scores 2. I think it's Frank Stapleton scores the winner.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And they're through to the semi-final. I'll tell you what dates this as well. They end up losing to Juventus in the semi, who go on to win it. The other semi-finalists, who lost to Porto, went on to the final and lost to Juve in the final, were Aberdeen, obviously who'd won the Cup Winners' Cup the year before. But everyone I know, or everyone I've read interviews with who played in that game or was involved in it in some way, so my mate Neil, who was there on the Stretford end, said that the atmosphere was just something else. I read an interview with Brian Robson, and he said that as he was playing, he thought the pitch was shaking. Wow. Because just the noise. So there were no Barcelona fans at the game. They thought it was all sewn up, so none of them had travelled. So it was just United fans. And because they scored 2 goals early on, so it's on.
Yeah.
It's just ear splitting.
So did he get tickets from touts for that game?
No.
Or did he just go to the ticket office and
he just queued up. He just queued at the turnstiles. And he said that there was a bloke in front of him and he had a big bomber jacket on, skinhead. So the bleached jeans and the 18 eyelet DMs. And when Stapleton scored the winner, he said this guy burst into tears. Just skinhead, just listening to Screwdriver or whatever music you like, just in floods of tears.
So my clip for this round comes from the world of the Winter Olympics, 2002. This guy is called Stephen Bradbury. He is an Australian speed skater who figures out that he knows the best way to win a race.
Took up the tactic, well, my best chance here is it's only a very minimal chance, but I'm just going to stay out of the way, and that way if anything does happen, then I'll be there to capitalise.
So he's done this in the semi-final as well, where he's kind of hung back a bit. Top 2.
What a pearl.
What an absolute legend. So top 2 go through from his quarter-final. Someone got disqualified. He came 3rd, so he got through. And he thinks, I'm probably about the 8th best skater here. So what I'll do is I'll hang back. Semi-final, he hangs back. Bunch of people fall over. He goes through. brilliant. He's in the final. Final, he's what, 20 metres back maybe on the last lap?
Yeah.
He's just going around the top bend when the rest of them are contesting the final bend, and they all wipe out. 4 of them just go. And he's just like, he doesn't even sprint then, he just kind of glides across the finishing line.
It's very shrewd what he did.
It's brilliant. And he feels a bit embarrassed about it initially.
Does he? Bollocks. He says that. That wouldn't be a tactic for 3 races if you felt embarrassed about it.
Absolutely.
So I felt a bit bad. When I had the gold medal, I thought, I'm not
the real gold medalist.
Shut up, you Burke. I would have skated over backwards to give him the V. I wonder what his best time is compared to the bloke who would normally win the gold medal.
I think he says he reckons he was about the 8th or 9th best one there.
This would be like Ellis in the 1500 metre final with his best mile time of 9:55.
No. I've got it down to about 7:40 actually.
Oof.
And now the interval training begins this week because I've stalled at 7:40.
Go on, son. Are you?
Oh, my fart legs. I'll be doing all of that.
Touch your toes, yeah?
No, nowhere near.
No, knees.
Kelly, my wife thought you were joking because she knows that I'm a big fat kid. I like to touch my toes.
No.
She said, can Ellis really not touch his toes? I said, no, you really can't touch his toes. In fact, he thinks we're making it up that other people can't touch their toes. I put a thing on Twitter saying I put the last season I played proper rugby up.
Yeah.
And I think I was 32. And I just said, what a dick to retire at 32.
Why then? Why did you do that?
I was so injured. Everything was fucked. My last game, I detached my biceps, so that was gone. So if I catalogue my injuries from rugby,
yeah,
I'm like a Home Bargains Evil Knievel. So I broke my left leg, broke in 2 places, fib and tib.
Yeah.
My knees are fairly knackered. My thighs are all right. My lumbar, I got bulging discs in my lumbar. Broke my ribs, broke my collarbone, broke my nose, broke most of the bones in my right hand and my right thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, got my ears, kicked off and stitched up, but the bicep was the one that finished me off.
Your ear came off.
Well, yeah, I got stitched up on the side of the pitch. I got
no.
Evander Holyfield style.
What did Evil Knievel say? He said scars heal.
Diesel burns.
He said bones heal and chicks dig scars. That's what Evil Knievel said. Yeah. And he had a decent life, didn't he? Apart from
all the crashes and being shit at stunts, yeah.
Alcoholic and dying in agony. Penniless and multiple divorces. I mean, he was,
living the dream.
We're still talking about him.
Kids didn't speak to him. I never thought he was a wanker, but apart from that, absolute dream.
I've got access to the kids, but they don't want to see me.
No, so I put that photograph up, and then a lot of people said, "Why did you stop playing at 32?" I said, "I don't know."
Banned.
Yeah, I was injured a lot, but I'm not injured now. I can play now. I'm just too fat and slow, so I'm going to try and get back in the rugby pitch.
What about a game of touch?
Fuck right off. How does that sound? I'd rather eat my own shit than play touch rugby. Fucking hell. Christ. I tried it once. I got sent off playing touch. Because it's almost exclusively played by arseholes these days, right? When I first played touch rugby, it was like sevens, right? It was something you did in the off-season.
Oh my God.
Rugby players played a bit of sevens, rugby players played a bit of touch.
Yeah.
Now touch is like a separate thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all fucking cyclists and runners and triathletes and they...
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I went down there. I literally put a hand out and slap a guy's arse as he went past me. You'd think I insulted his entire family. He was like, "What's your fucking problem, mate?" I said, What have I done? It's touch rugby, mate, not slap rugby. I was like, fuck off, I slapped your ass. What are you talking about? Just played by fannies, honestly.
Right, let's go books. Ellis, you go first.
My book is It's a fantastic read. It's Das Reboot, How German Football Reinvented Itself and Conquered the World, by Raphael Honigstein. Rafa Honigstein, who you might recognise from The Guardian Football Weekly, which is where I first heard of him. And it really is a great read. The German football team were humiliated at Euro 2000. They were knocked out in the groups. And even though they'd won the World Cup in 1919, the Euros in 1996, it was an ageing team. And the wheel had turned. And the German FA realised that something needed to be done, so they completely revamped the German academy system, and also the media conglomerate that sponsored the Bundesliga went bust. So all of the money came out the Bundesliga, which meant that they couldn't afford to buy very expensive foreign imports. So suddenly there was far more of an emphasis on nurturing domestic talent in the Bundesliga. And 14 years later, they win a World Cup. It's a really good read. Frustratingly, if you're anything other than German, you will just wish that your country, wherever you're from, had done what they'd done.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you're English, Wales is different because we're a country of 3 million people, so we're never going to have the same resources that the Germans will have in terms of player base, but the English do. And why they haven't done this is absolutely beyond me.
Mike, what do you got?
Right, well, this book, I did mention it briefly in one of the pods early on. It's called Paper Lion.
Yes.
Confessions of a Last String Quarterback by George Plimpton. So this is, you think of things like Rod Gilbert's work experience, or the sort of the Max Boyce series we talked about before, where people try out things they don't usually try out. I think he almost sort of started that genre. I mean, he did a book about baseball before this.
Yeah.
Where he pitched at some all-star baseball players. I had to go become like a baseball pitcher. And then he got the idea of doing it with football. So Paper Lion he approached a few teams. He's a New York boy, so he approached the New York teams and they both said no. I think the Chicago Bears said no. And then the Detroit Lions said, yeah, you can come along to pre-season, you can try. And the whole premise of the book is what would happen if an ordinary bloke off the street tried to make it as a professional football player, right? And it is a fascinating book. It's 1963, so obviously football was different then, but it was still, it was still a brutal sport. And he's what I love about this, he writes really, really well. Yeah. He's a really good journalist. They eventually put him into one of the pre-season scrimmage games, which means when they play like an inter-squad game. And they put him in for one series, and he loses yardage in every play, and they yank him out of the game. They're then going to put him in the next game. They play a pre-season game against Cleveland, and they say they'll put him in if they get enough of a lead. And then Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner, writes to the club and says, you will not put George Plimpton into an NFL pre-season game. Because, I mean, this is not a joke league. Yeah. But Rozelle only sort of knew the sort of nuts and bolts of it. If he'd have known more about it, he'd have known that is not what George Plimpton wasn't taking the mickey at that point. Yeah, so Paper Lion by George Plimpton I can highly recommend.
So my choice for this week is called The Art of Resilience. It's by a guy called Ross Edgley. People probably would know Ross from swimming around Great Britain a couple of years ago. Started off in Margate and swam around the whole of Britain.
Phelps is shaking his head.
No, that's incredible.
He's a mate of Eddie Hall's, so he is not built for swimming. So Ross is a bit of a strongman.
Oh my God.
But it's such a good book in that it tells the story of that adventure.
Can you imagine getting in the sea of Margate? I've been to Margate. It's a 4-hour drive from here, right? Getting in the sea of Margate and like swimming around the top of Scotland.
It's like I'm going south first. I'm going across the bottom of the country. I'm going up around Wales. And he's also got to do the first half of it really quickly because it's going to be winter by the time he gets to the top.
Oh my God.
So during the entire thing, he has to put...
How did I not hear about this?
He has to put on weight during... So he puts on 18 kilos during the swim because by the time it's winter, the sea is going to be so inhospitable that he needs to have put on weight in order to survive the second half of the swim because it'll just be too cold. Yeah. Well, this is the thing as well. So he's eating porridge every day that is, in inverted commas, enriched with coconut oil, peanut butter. He's just loading up on everything possible because he knows he needs to put on weight.
What a nut job.
An absolute craze. But the science behind it as well. So he the quotes from the medical journals, from the scientific journals that he's read through are amazing. So it's really intellectual, sort of the base for all of the knowledge that he puts into the book. Within about 2 hours of starting, his neck starts to cut from the wetsuit because he hasn't worn it before. So he's done all this research into it, and then he gets in. He's got a brand new wetsuit which cuts into his neck. The cut is constantly wet because you're constantly in the sea. It will never heal, therefore it'll get gangrenous. Therefore he'll have problems. They get gaffer tape, and they fashion some sort of neck thing out of gaffer tape around his neck so that he doesn't then...
So what does he have, like a support boat?
Yes, so he's got a boat that he refuses to go on land for the entire duration, so 5 months.
Hang on now. So hang on. He swims all day.
Yeah.
And then sleeps on the boat.
And while he's asleep, because he's been in salt water... and he's got cuts on his neck. His tongue starts to fall apart at one point because he's been in the salt water for too long. His pillow sticks to his face every single night. So every night he wakes up, he gets up, he's got a pillow stuck to his head.
I don't understand these people. I love them, but I don't. Why would you do that?
Can you imagine?
It's brilliant.
How much you dread getting back in.
I'm going to buy this tomorrow.
Back into the water after a night's sleep with your pillow stuck to your face.
And then the next day, straight back in, crack on, find a nice little pace.
You must be in a hell of a state physically by the end of it.
There's one bit where he gets to the north of Scotland and they say, oh, look, we got a bit of...
north of Scotland?
Bit of good news, bit of bad news. And he's like, okay. And the captain of the ship says, so the bad news is there's a killer whale that's been kind of spotted around the area. So the good news is... that they don't really like humans.
The sharks are keeping away.
But they like eating seals. He says the second bit of bad news is you look quite a lot like a seal at the moment because you put on a lot of weight and you've got a grey wetsuit on.
If I told Izzy,
yeah,
right, I'm swimming.
She wouldn't notice. She'd notice the sideburns, mate.
I'm swimming around Britain.
You could be down in Margate now. She wouldn't notice.
Sorry, who are you?
I'll be back in December. I'll be back in time for Christmas.
I was on the beach in Barry yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. It was blustery and cold and just really nice. A great day on the beach.
Yeah.
And I looked at the sea and there was a fella there I thought, fair play to you, mate. He was in there in his shorts. Imagine getting in there.
Yeah.
And then swimming around
I'm going to go right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep going right until I come back
Kelly, I'll see you in 5 months.
In 5 months' time. Oh, you absolute lunatic. I love it. And you haven't been on land since then?
Do you know, when I was in Adelaide, I remember I was on the beach at about 9 in the morning and there were houses on the beach.
You, Nigel Havers.
There were these...
Joe Frasier
in a wetsuit.
Rudolph Valentino and Martin Luther King. We were all having a barbecue.
As usual.
There were these houses on the beachfront. And I was lying down. I was facing away from the sea, so I could see this guy come out, and he must have been in his 60s, I would say, mid-60s. White hair, a body like Wolverine. He looked like Hugh Jackman, and he got in the sea and he just swam hard, sea swimming for about half an hour, and then went back into his house. I thought, I bet you've done that every morning. Whatever the weather for the last 45 years, and that is why you look like you do.
Old blokes, just in trunks.
Trunks? No thanks.
There's a Welsh bloke from Plymouth who's still lifting weights and he's 86.
Oh, any photos?
There's a Western Gazette or whatever, the paper is down there. In lockdown, he's got his garage is full of weights and he's still lifting weights.
I'm not a pervert. I'm just
curious.
Just admire them.